Good evening, free enterprise fans. Tonight we have a pretty high praise for you. We have the old school, old hat veteran Inven coming back after 4 years of not being in a tournament. His last tournament was back in the highways of the Zemus Zone 3. Can he knock off some of that rust and, get a win out here versus Beauty, who's fairly new? I know that Beauty came in with one of my co-commentators here, Tall Grant. How's it going, Tall?
Hey, Tibble, it's going great. Yeah, Beauty was in my group actually for Adamant Cup, the classic Aegis Shield group, and has been around and been a pretty good pillar in the community for a while. In fact, Beauty was one of the folks responsible for putting the tournament together and was a last minute replacement for a player who had to drop out. So I'm really excited to see them both because Inven, of course, is very, very long time player in the community, runs a very fun stream, really personable, really fun. In fact, one of the first things I did with him was watch him play Trombone Hero when it released. But I think the two of them are going to put up on a really good show for us tonight, especially because we have that show of Showman of Showmen as our hero tonight, Edward the Bard.
That's going to be a bit spicy. Are we going to find the spoon? Are we going to have Spoony Bard with us tonight? Or are we going to hope for that Requiem Harp to reduce his agility?
Well, I'm reminded of the infamous Tiger Claw practice seed that appeared pretty early in the preparation for this tournament, which was an Edward Hero seed and required you to do the King of Monsters and had Dark Knight Cecil. So maybe we'll see something spicy like that tonight, but it looks like we're about to get underway and find out who our starting partner is.
Yes, we've got a Quack Kid.
And we know where D-Mist is hiding too, and a Rat Tail. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, so it's like we've got at least half an objective. We know where our infamous hidden key item is going to be. It's a matter of getting there. But as our runners are we'll go through the cutscene here. We'll introduce the rest of our restream here. We have Scar doing our restream here, and then we've got the Bardic Panda doing all the tracking.
Yep,
and I would see there. Go ahead.
No, you got it.
I did see there in chat that it's mentioned that yes, Inven was the winner of the Fabul Gauntlet. So we have a tournament champion on our hands.
Yep. Well, it should be a really good time tonight. Let's see where our runners want to go for their opening looting.
Yeah, it's always been a big thing in this tournament. It's always in any tournament the early loot. And I think for a lot of people, it debates on who your starting party is. With this party, we're really hoping to find dancing daggers. So, I mean, we're going to be looking like Damsian or Watery Pass to have that higher chance.
Well, that would be really nice, but I don't know. Why don't you dream for the stars? There's a chance we can find some tier 6 loot, and we can hope that there's going to be a Stardust Rod waiting for somebody, because that would really break the early game open.
Oh, yeah. Stardust Rod is shoot. I mean, if you're going to shoot for the moon, I mean, why not, right?
Well, both our runners decide that they think Edward does best at home and send him straight to Damsian. No Watery Pass, no back of Waterfall. That's right where we're going. So very similar opening for both of them.
Wow, that there's some axes in there.
Well, the Elven Bow is much more useful if they can find some arrows to go with it.
Yeah, Dwarf Axe. Yeah, I think Damsian may have wanted to ask us a question.
Well, that's the other fun question I'm wondering about is how much do you want to go loot here versus going up to Hobbs to see if the third character who can bail you out of the low power start. Ooh, that black belt sitting there that both runners immediately find could be very handy.
Yeah, I mean, again, the problem is this. There's not much power to the starting group here. I mean, Callum doesn't get his level 2 spells for a little bit. Might be able to get through like Antlion Cave. Maybe spike something in there.
Interesting. We're seeing a strat from Inven that I don't see too much these days, which is using the hovercraft to get over to Antlion Cave right away. Really interesting to see that. I know it's a fast move. It saves the animation time of getting in and out, but I just don't think you see that in current play. So that's kind of fun to see the old hat tricks coming out there. And there's a black shirt for Palom. Oh, that's on Inven's side. Excuse me. Yeah, it's on Inven's side.
Yeah. We've got a little bit of divergence here. Going over to Troya, checking out some item shops and weapon shops here.
Yeah, I think Beauty is hoping to get arrows to go with that Elven Bow just to make things a little stronger, or to find that Dancing Dagger you were mentioning, because both the heroes here, a pair of Dancing Daggers makes this party a lot better.
Mm-hmm. At least until you get, a couple levels on Palom and get that Ice 2 online.
Well, looks like we have the Chthonian imitating Octomam sitting inside the Antlion Cave.
This is fine. We start with some Thor Rages, so I mean, not too shabby here.
Yeah, and he'll slow down the more you hit him with him. He's not too fast to begin with, so I think that this is going to be a pretty safe fight for inven. It's just a shame it's not worth more experience.
Yeah, but I mean, you do wish it was just a little bit more. Because unfortunately, Palm's not going to be able to get Ice 2. The closest one we had was like Hops for our Ice 2.
Yep. Well, looks like Beauty's going to follow him right down there, but he's got some nice meat arrows to go with his Elven Bow. You know, it theoretically gives you double mage killing, but of course in game turns you only get the bonus one time.
No, but it does have a higher attack on the arrows themselves, so...
All right, and we have our first key item check coming up now that the Octomam is down.
Yeah, what are we going to get here? Ooh,
Oh.
some music.
Well, everybody loves a little music, especially in a Bard seed, and of course, I'll remind all of you that there's a very large pool of songs that are randomized in here as well, so hopefully we'll see that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I want to see something like 600 different songs. There's a lot.
Well, and our runners high five as they pass through the tunnel. You know, Tybalt, we didn't talk at all about the objectives tonight because we were too busy talking about the history of the runners.
Yeah.
What are we looking to do today?
Well, looks like we're looking to trade away that pink tail, destroy the super cannon, defeat Queen and the King down there in the Fey March. Gotta turn in that package, Mura altar, and the rat tail. So definitely, I mean, the runners going straight to unlock that hovercraft because we got 2 objectives locked behind that hovercraft. I think.
Well, and it's interesting. It could be 4 objectives behind that hovercraft because that may be our access to get underground.
Ooh, very true.
Which means that plus the Darkness Crystal and a couple little other pieces may be go mode. So, interesting setup that could be very jetty. Ooh, there's a cane on top of Mount Hobbs.
Yeah, well, we got a Dwarf Axe for him, and we got an Ogre Axe, so we're happy.
Well, inven into the fight on Hobbs against Dark Elf. Meanwhile, Beauty wraps up in Antline Cave and receives his Twin Harp.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be checking that Twin Harp too early.
It really depends. I mean, where do you fall on the spectrum of checking the Twin Harp versus having to do the hook route? I mean, do you hold out the hope the magma key's in there and you're willing to waste the time? Ooh.
Well, I mean, at the same point of that, like, you're gonna have to warp out if you have warp at the time. If that's a long walk out, it would have to depend on what the boss there is at the hook route.
Right. Well, it looks like Beauty found a second black belt, which is a very, very nice pickup, especially because you may want to have a couple melees and not just rely on Kane. But I think Kane's going to be really good, especially with the axe that both of our runners picked up in Damsian.
Oh, I mean, the Dwarf Axe giving, the back row glitch, the only way that we can back row Arcane to be able to do full damage from the back row is going to be really nice.
And Palom celebrates by himself on Inven's side.
One's in the air, the other one's hiding off screen.
Yeah. Well,
Going to be a team player there, everybody.
Oh, I'm just hoping we get to see some fun Odin strats later in the seed. We've got both the characters we need to do it.
Oh, the old Kanderstruck, as we like to call it.
I just want to remind chat that if you insult Kane hard enough, he will betray you quite good later. But, the other thing I saw, Beauty, when he was inside Antline Cave, managed to find a ice brand, which is a fantastic weapon for Kane in a lot of this until you can get something endgame-ish on him. So that could be a very good pickup for him. But meanwhile, Inven just a little bit ahead in pace, and I think it's mostly the difference is that shopping trip that Beauty made over to Troya.
Yeah, I mean, both the Ogre Axe and the Ice Brand are about comparable. The biggest thing you get from that Ice Brand is being able to hit with the ice. And there's some Dancing Daggers there for sale. Goodbye Self Orb. Goodbye some other stuff. So we're going to buy at least 1, if not 2 Dancing Daggers here.
Yeah, there is a little bit of limited funds over on Inven's side just because he didn't spend quite as much time looting, but it's one of the big things that gets weighed in this randomizer is trading that time for the cash that may give you success.
Mm-hmm. But at least getting 1, so Eddie can sit there and start doing some a bit better damage. Palom's going to have his spells online here. We can bluff him up to do a little bit more. Ooh, Sparkle.
Yep.
Sparkle.
What? D's Lunars. A bit of a spicy fight. I think, though, that the Dancing Daggers are going to make a big deal in here because that lets you, of course, attack them without using the attack function and triggering the awful counter script where they cast virus and are generally not very nice.
Yeah, we've got Fire 2 on Palom, so this is going to go very quickly.
Yeah, and Jump with Kane is working really well, too.
Mm-hmm. Only the Fight command actually triggers the counter scripts. on most bosses.
Yep. All right. Well, invent through the Lunar Dragons without really. Let's see if the King of Fabul gives us a reward for not fading his check.
Oh, that was the biggest thing in the Fabul Gauntlet, which in Federal was the fading of Fabul until you had the pan. It was one of the biggest things back then.
And there's a hook. That's actually a very nice pickup there. That's going to be a almost hard required item.
Yeah. And the question is now, it's like, do you go up Ordeals? Do you take the time to go up there? You don't have a Cecil. Hell's not even in the seed.
Right. Well, and you know where demist is, so those 3 boss checks are not particularly useful either. That's actually been, I think, the replacement of the Fade Fabul check is fading Ordeals, because there's a good amount of time you spend going up there to get to the mirror room and see what the item is. And I mean, it's a pretty solid time save if there's nothing valuable up there. Mm-hmm. But if a crystal sword drops in your lap, then it feels really bad, and even worse if there's a required key item that you just leave alone for the entire seed.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you also have to be prepared because we are playing with the Sea Hero flag, so it means that in the changing room, your hero has to face whatever is there by themselves.
Well, and that's a rough road to hoe with Eddie, especially he's in a better spot because he has that Elven Bow also, but I think the hope is to use that Dancing Dagger, and if something like Ogo that has a nasty counter is there, that can be a real unpleasant fight and an unpleasant surprise at the end of a long check.
Oh, we have an objective. We got a package from the Reptile.
Well, and that leads to one of our fun questions is, does the package character be somebody that's worth sitting through the entire cutscene to grab them?
Yeah, that's a huge question. I think with our party here, Edge, I think would be 100% you take.
It's really tempting if there's a white mage here too. I mean, that's something that you really, really want to have. And there's a white mage. I think you're right. Edge is an auto sit through. This is an interesting choice because it's very possible that Rosa or Porum is also sitting there and Baron in and is going to be very achievable. But it's all, if there was Edge here, it's like, well, he's gated. We don't know where we'll see him again.
Mm-hmm. Or even like down there at the hook route. Is the Edge or Rosa, is there white mage down there? But if you really, really wanted to be spicy about it, you got to go down the hook route anyways. You could save, just in front of Baron, go out, check that hook route, and go, oh, nope, go right back to Baron, then go like Baron in or something like that. Like you can do what some people call save scum in that.
Well, I think
you spend 30 seconds.
I think BeautyInDiscovery has decided that you've taken a right path, and I see the Magus sisters and a second Kane, which it breaks my heart that we can't put him in the party.
No dupes. Just like no capes, no dupes.
No dupes. Well, inven is going to, we'll see how inven does, but I'm hearing rumors that inven may be pot committed here, but I mean, why not? The true romantic pair of Free Enterprise should have always, of Final Fantasy IV rather, should have been Kane and Rosa. Yep, inven is going to go do the check.
Yeah. Now, what would be really bad here is something like, like the Alt Gauntlet or like Golbez.
Yeah, just something that wastes a whole bunch of time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, meanwhile, Beauty's found the Elements fight. There's certainly a lot worse things that could have been in Barrett too, and I think that with Palom here, Beauty beautifully put that together with the ice, timed perfectly to hit Rubicant and just push through that fight.
That is some high level of gameplay there. Let me put it there. I mean, he's keeping up. I mean, you got Invent doing the high level of the actions of managing the inventory during battle. We've got that type. That takes a lot of time.
Well, that pass is probably worth it. That plague is not long for the world on the package check, so Inven will walk out with his white mage in hand.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, both players receiving a free heal. You kind of think that there's going to be a little bit of pickup between the two, but I wonder if Beauty's going to go peek on the hook route just to see what's there, or if he's going to head up and do the package.
In that little bit of a pot there in the Motel 6, as we love to call it, fights an Aegis shield. That's a pretty big pickup.
Well, like I said, Beauty and I both came from Team Aegis Shield. It's always a joy to see it appear in this.
Picking up some kamikazes here on Inven's side. It has some niche uses, though, for those kamikazes.
Well, that kind of indicates to me that I think Inven's thinking about going to do that harp check. That's a great way to get through the opening round of the Dark Elf, and not only when you do that do you save time, you get your kamikazes right back because your inventory resets during the revive.
Hmm. Well, like if you can time it right, like the crumble fights. So I mean, we're talking Ordeals 2, Baron 2, Zot 2. I think there's I think the element, yeah, every element spot crumbles. So like on the hook, you time your damage, you can skip the crumble phase.
Mhm. All right, well, Inven on his way to try and collect the pass, so I don't think he'll have too much trouble with where his party is sitting. He does check the newspaper and remind us about Todd. For those of you who have not checked into it, there are a number of flags hidden across Free Enterprise. There were lots of script items to replace NPC dialogue, signs, and other things, and I encourage you, if you haven't, to take a little time, stop and explore the world around you.
Yeah, like one
Meanwhile,
of the biggest things is like checking out the crystals on the moon. They actually teach you some of the knowledge behind the game. So we're talking about agility, manipulation, everything that is nice to have instead of having to go to the wiki. They are there in the game for you.
well, and a few other Easter eggs are out there, including the tips that are in some of the starting areas about how to play, the information you can get from Rose's mother about checks that you still have outstanding. And if you look hard enough in a secret room, there's a place where you can find all the past winners of Free Enterprise tournaments.
Yep.
All right, again, our runners are trading checks here. I think Beauty's going to have to make a decision in a minute about whether he'd like to sit through the cutscene and receive Rosa. And Inven, I think, is faced with the choice of doing ordeals or heading toward the hook route.
Yeah, that's gonna be the tricky one. I mean, you kind of want the little bit of extra levels before going down that hook route.
Yep. Inven makes short work of the Ruby, different strategy than Beauty, using ice arrows and the Elven bow, but that hits two different weaknesses on Rubicant and is a pretty strong combo. I think Beauty's also interested in a white mage, and so he's on his way. Once again, the runners are picking up the same bits of shopping and whatnot. We're seeing a lot of convergence in what they're doing.
Yeah. Ooh, Hermes sandals. That's an interesting pickup.
I actually saw Rybon using those night. He webs and use that to speed up his characters during his Mech Giant grind.
Yeah, the
And so,
opposite of the slow spell. You speed up your party and slow down your enemy. It makes
well,
it a little faster.
it's not quite as effective because I think you get a lot more benefit out of the silk webs. But I had talked to Rybon about that after his race, and he made the comment, "It's better than nothing," and I could see the logic of it.
Yeah, because the silk web actually does 2 casts of slow.
Right, and it basically doubles the relative agility of it, which, as opposed to the Hermes, which the maximum benefit you'll get out of it is about a 20% boost in speed.
And this looks like his inven is going to Ordeals here.
All right. Well, we get a peek at what's up here. We have some form of Mylon. Will it be regular vanilla or will it be French?
Oh, we'll see. Okay, well, we got some French.
At least
That's
it's a
some French
little
vanilla.
randomized. If you want to, change things just a little bit.
I was about to say that you even randomized this. You're getting close. You're tempting fate here.
Well, don't blame me. I didn't roll this seed.
No, I'm gonna blame the Scar on that one. Like, you stick Rosa in a package that's close enough to Kaipo, and it's just. I think I saw Inven pick up a Charm Claw as well. Maybe just kind of, picking up some items that we, on spec, as we called in some of our previous tournaments. Just something that's cheap, nice to have for a character that may show up in the future to kind
Well,
of help you out a little bit later.
Well, particularly because the most common grind in this is to go summon Mac Giants, and the Charm Claw, of course, is strong against the Giant type enemy. So that's what you kind of want to see. All right, Beauty and Discovery also does not want to leave Ordeals behind. Way to potentially skip the hook route, so he will be on his way up as well.
Ooh.
All right. In the back attack boss, we have a Baigen, and that's a little bit ugly.
I could actually see maybe 1 or 2 bluffs coming out here from Palom.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing. I mean, this is not like I don't think it's a serious jeopardy. It's just a little bit of an unpleasant kind of fight.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
I think there's enough strength on Kane to carry through this, and if you use Palom wisely, like you see Inven doing with the bluffs, it should make the fight a lot quicker.
The problem is, as soon as you do your first spell on Baigen, whether it's the Dancing Dagger or the Virus, he's going to cast a wall. So you want to make sure you do as much damage as possible.
Well, 2,000 damage is a lot. That's about 75-ish% of what he's got. And there goes the body.
And well, Eddie should take out the arm here.
Yep. And we are through. And inven has the opportunity to go do the mirror room.
Ooh, this could Zolo chance like Solo Eddie versus a gauntlet for the darkness.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. There's going to be an obvious safety save here just in case there's a lack of value, because I'm not sure a terrible Eddie fight is worth suffering through if you're not going to get it just for the sake of potentially seeing Paladin Cecil later.
Yeah, I mean something like a Val here or a really bad Wyvern. It could just be terrible.
All right, here we go with Edward. While Beauty takes on the Mylon, we'll see what is in here.
Yeah. Will we get a spoon instead of the Legend Sword?
We have a ninja shirt. This may not be worth sitting through. But inven looks like he at least wants to see the boss. It's the other form of Mylon and Friends, is a fairly obnoxious fight with Edward.
Yes, it is, because of the vampires. But actually taking the fight here.
Yeah, I guess inven must feel that there is going to be a Cecil to appear later in the seed and is hoping to get value out of it. But
here comes the other thing we think about is that we have a hero of Eddie. Now, in later levels, he becomes super, super fast. So your mages tend to just lag behind and being able to do actions.
Well, and I think that's a reason why the Kain character pickup is so important, because Kain and Edge are the only two characters who can keep up with Edward agility-wise, and having them in the party really solves a lot of anchoring and speed problems that you alluded to.
Here comes some other huge game knowledge here. Putting up a Star Veil on Edward to kind of reflect back those lit ones that are coming out from.
Yeah, just to make sure. Just making sure the damage isn't going to be too much and wreck the fight, but I think one more Dancing Dagger should get inven through with the Crystal Room. Meanwhile, BeautyInDiscovery, following a very similar strat to take out the Baigan. Palom rolls a little lower on that side, but it's no problem, and Beauty is through the second fight on Ordeals, and we'll be seeing the Mirror Room shortly.
Yeah, I mean, both these runners are just neck and neck, really.
Well, I mean, we're at the point where we have exhausted all of our opening checks, and both runners have spent about 20.5 minutes to get there. So at a very, very nice pace, things are moving along quickly. I think the only other check that's open besides going down the hook route is to go do the Harp, and both runners found the exits for sale that were in Baron, so I think you might be seeing a Harp check from at least one of them.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Or spy the character on the hook route first.
Well,
I see that as an option because you find an edge down there, and then maybe you see something like Blue Robe, and you go, okay, well, it's something that's easy. I can go underground. I've got a couple sirens. Give me some levels, something to make that Harp check just a little bit faster.
Well, you also might find some really good gear as you walk down into Eblin Cave, because there might be some good stuff in there.
Yeah, or even like the shop. In a gated shop, you can find some extra goodies in there too.
Well, I'm not sure there's going to be too many extra goodies. The big prize are black belts, and both runners have at least one of them.
That's true.
So without the spoon, I don't think Edward's going to be contributing anywhere near the damage that Kain is currently throwing out. But the real star of this party right now is Palom as far as damage is concerned. And unfortunately, due to the high defense inside Cave Magnus, he is very likely to not be helpful. And of course, you really don't want the situation where he is helpful, because that alt gauntlet is one of the worst ones in the game.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, mage killing gear on inven's side, looting inside Cave Eblin, finds a rune axe. Beauty has decided to reset out of the Mylon fight. Let's see if he wants to take it again or if he's going to bail.
Go save.
If he's curing people up, I think he's going to leave.
Ooh, here's something. We have a couple sirens. Lilith, we have a siren. Lilith.
We're going to stop him. Well, speaking of goodies, there are illusions in the shop in Cave Eblin, rather.
I don't think we'll get Palom to Quake here, but we'll at least get him back up to the virus if we don't have it already.
Well, elven bows are cheap and plentiful in this seed. There's another set of them for sale.
Yep, there goes down the Lilith there from Beauty's side, and...
Yep. Levels there for Palom. Doesn't quite get him up there, but gets Rosa a lot closer to Berserk. And
Which
Beauty is going to leave.
Yeah.
Well, so Paladin Cecil is an interesting divergence here, because if he appears, Inven will be able to take him at full power, and Beauty will just see the old Dark Knight.
Yeah. Ooh, it's young. And ooh.
Speaking of the old Dark Knight.
Yeah. Well, at least it's not in the King Queen spot.
Yes. That is an ugly, ugly place for that boss. This is a little bit more doable, but you may want to stop and think about whether you have the levels and the power to pull through something like that, and the speed.
Yeah.
Of course, ideally, you would just hide Edward through this fight, but he is our anchor at relative agility 5, so that's going to be a bit rough.
You just have to make sure that at least one person has enough HP to survive at least 1 or 2 waves, depending.
All right. And Beauty's going to take the opposite approach from Inven, which is a little more conservative, to go into Castle Evelyn, go looking for treasure, and go looking for levels. And I think the goal of this is to get Quake on Palom. But the Thunderclaw is a nice pickup, especially since we know that a Yong is forthcoming.
To answer a question here in chat from Amir-chan, so why is DKC worse at King Queen than he is at the Ruby spot? His Dark Wave ability is actually based off the attack power of the spot. As a very theme here within Final Fantasy IV is that a lot of the spots that don't physically hit you have very high attack. So we were talking like Leviathan spot, Azura,
Cave Bahamut.
Yeah, Cave Bahamut. You've got even like CPU, and then of course the King Queen spot here have very high attack power. So those Dark Waves here at King Queen would be doing around, I think it's like 600 to 700 damage per wave. I know Leviathan's upwards of like 12 to 13.
Yeah, you are right about both of those numbers. I think you want to ask me how I know.
I mean, I know one because I just had to deal with it the other day. So,
But yeah, so Beauty finds the Staleman Skull Chest. That's probably the trickiest of the 3 that are in here. I think Beauty was much more hoping that he'd run across the Mad Ogres or the Black Cat Lamia chest. Those are a little bit more simple, and I think you'll see him looting the other tower, particularly because I didn't see anything too spectacular on the side he was looting through.
Yeah, the easiest one to take on right now is going to be that Mad Ogre chest, simply because we have the Aegis shield. Kang can sit there in the back row, take no damage.
Well, this is probably going to be a little bit more friendly for him. Meanwhile, Inven's at one of the big hold breath moments for the Hook bout, because you get no prior indication of what boss is in Hook 1 other than the bosses you've seen. It's helpful to know that Dark Knight Cecil is there, but of course our friend Evil Wall is at large, and that would be one of the most obnoxious things that could be here. And having come down without stopping to do much leveling is great if it works out, and a little scary if it doesn't, but Inven's an old hat. We'll see what he can pull off.
Yeah. That spot's also, you have to worry about your anchoring, If you have high agility, that spot's going to be really fast and just punch you in the face really hard, really fast.
It's a Mom Bomb. And that is a very hard-hitting boss.
Yeah, that is I am out. I am doing Harp.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious if this puts any more advantage back in Beauty's court for stopping and having done some of the leveling, because Beauty is going to get down there with a bit more power, and Beauty finds a crystal ring, which with the fast Edward hero is actually a really big deal.
Not only does it give 5 agility, it's actually really good defensive as well.
Well, I'll tell you who will benefit from this. Both of your mages, who are extremely slow, suddenly get on parity until about the middle part of the game. And Beauty has no hesitation, puts that right on Palom, and is going to continue looking for the Mad Ogre chest.
Yep. Ooh, I found a strength ring, so a little bit extra strength. And ooh, Inven's casting life on our Mad Ogres here. Well, what's going on here?
Well, in this game, the developers never considered that you would try to resurrect an enemy, and so the enemies on their vitality stat, which determines your life when you are resurrected, gave them a stat of 0. So in Free Enterprise, which takes advantage of this glitch from the original game, if you use a life potion or cast the life spell on an enemy as they go through their death animation, you'll revive them with 0 hit points, and they will die a second time immediately. And of course, the game will then credit you with killing 2 of them when you only actually killed 1.
So it's a feature, not a bug.
It is. It was fully intended. And of course, that flag, it is something in Free Enterprise that we can toggle on and off. For this tournament, it's on. It helps with the grind and a few other things. So it's a fun quality of life and a way to show off a bit of skill, and that's what we see our runners doing.
Yep. And ooh, it's just Kane alive here for the Mad Ogres. Kind of hoping to get Quake on Palom here. Gonna have to hope that this one left just targets Kane constantly.
Well, yeah, and with the slowness of Kane, you may queue the attack up and risk that Palom gets hit right at the end. But thankfully, luck is on inven's side, and the Mad Ogre... Oh, he doesn't take him down.
Ooh.
That is a bad time for Kane to betray the party with a low roll. Those illusions that inven picked up in the shop just bailed him out quite well.
Oh,
wow, 2 hits in a
100%.
row.
Whew.
All right, this should be enough to put Palom up to Quake, I think, though. It's
There's
not.
No.
It's not.
Ooh.
That is spicy.
I got a Protect Ring out of it, though, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe now deciding to take on that Mom Bomb? It's going to be tricky.
Chat had mentioned it's a lot easier to do Mom Bomb with Quake, and that's probably true because it's going to be a really rough thing once the Mom Bomb explodes, and I don't see the way that the runners are going to get the 10,000 damage to get him from the phase change. I suspect what you might see inven do is burn his Siren or look for a random encounter out in front until he can push Palom up for that last level he needs to get up to Quake.
Oh, here, yep, random encounter, here we come.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was thinking about, just a good old, a funny thing we could have done is just to make sure, have Palom cast a virus on all the bombs there, and then just have Edward hide and just let the sap ticks take out the bombs.
Yeah, but that might take a little while, but that is a theoretically possible thing, but that involves them both surviving the explosion.
Yeah, but you just so you're all aware, yes, you can cast virus on Zemus, hide Edward, and let the game just play. It takes about 16 hours, but you will die to the sap.
All right, Beauty. Go ahead. Yeah, Beauty's getting the bad news about Dark Knight Cecil being in Hook Route 2, but I think Beauty's going to be a little braver with the power he's put on his levels. Meanwhile, the fight is not quite going, I think, the way inven had drawn it up here. It's going to be really close to make sure that Palom can get through here.
Yeah, it's just those Black Cats hit so hard. We don't really have great defensive gear for our party. Yeah, we got the Black Belts, but...
Well, there was just enough to keep Palom alive through that hit, which is very good. There's, again, a conservative play to make sure he's there and let Palom virus him out, which ensures that Palom will survive the fight. So very smart. Again, old hand, knows a lot of the tricks, showing off what he knows here.
Okay, there's the Quack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was one level away from it. I think it was really close with that match.
Now, thing is, you don't get any healing before this first fight, so we're going to have some life since the 10's being cast out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be focused on whether or not Rosa can get through the hit and do something to heal Kane. I think... well, excuse me, it's the Mom Bomb fight that's first. My apologies. So this is going to be a little bit of a rough fight still. I mean, there's a lot of help here, but you're going to be fighting a very fast enemy, and you have to kind of be on the ball and ready to really go after the Mom Bombs with a Quake or something. Just have it queued up, and hopefully Palom can ride through the explosion and get it done.
Oh, we'll see. Both the runners here are... Yeah, that... Evelyn's three monster box chests versus the other one, the 4 Mad Ogre here on the...
Well, and they're both walking into this fight at nearly the same time.
Yeah. This is what we meant by it's very fast and hits like a truck, as we just saw Yang take 1100 to the face.
Yeah, you kind of would love to have Edward hiding in the back row a little bit here. Now, I didn't see if Beauty picked up illusions in there. I know that inven has a couple, but I think that starts a little bit too bad for him, and he's going to get out. Meanwhile, Beauty's having similar problems on his side, and this is a really unpleasant fight.
Yeah. That's why when I saw Mom Bomb, even with Quake, it's like, I'm going to look for another way. I'm going to hope that, even if Harp had darkness, I'm going up to the moon at that point.
Well, this is a real test of resourcefulness for our runners, because these are the kind of puzzles that make Free Enterprise interesting. It's how much game knowledge can you find and exploit to get through a really tough boss like this.
Mm-hmm.
And a high roll on Rosa. You know, there's that protect ring. There's that issue of gear. Inven picked up a protect ring in the Mad Ogre chest versus Beauty and Discovery, who got that crystal ring in the Black Cat Lamia chest in Evelyn. And those two, if they're leveraged right, could play big dividends. I think Inven feels like he's one or two away from it, and this is a really good pull. That egg is a nice, easy fight. It just doesn't give a ton of experience.
Yeah, because it'll either be the Naga. I think it's gonna be the Naga that's in that one.
Yeah, it's not like the eggs underground where they hatch the yellow dragon.
Well, no. Not all eggs down in the underground hatch the yellow egg. Or
Well,
yellow dragon. It is
the
only
popular
a rare
grinding
encounter.
egg, the rare encounter with that everyone likes to use their siren and grind on. Cubs Rule in chat pointing out this is actually a green dragon egg.
Okay,
Which
well, there's
2,000
both
experience is
Naga.
nice, but it's not 30,000 experience.
Looks
Looks like
both Naga and Green Dragon, though. It's not just Green Dragon here.
Well, Beauty appears to have this fight off the ground and has gotten a couple of illusions up on characters, which is making a big difference in letting the hits get off here. I think the other scary part is Palom probably won't make it through the explosion as he stands, but there's a little bit of time to get him healed up and make sure things are fine.
No, he should be fine because it's basically it explodes based off the attack, the magic power. So,
Okay.
It doesn't
Losing
have
Young
that
there's not the end of the world. It's but Palom's out of mana. That's a problem.
Do we have an Ether 2? Oh, we have an Ether 1.
Ether 1, but we're probably not going to see him participate too much more here. It's going to be one of those things where I think we hope that Young can get the last of the hits on Mom Bomb before things go down. Meanwhile, Inven having a much better time with this next Black Cat Lamia fight. You can see the power just starting to creep up for him and make life easier.
Yeah, we got those illusions up. Blink being, one of the really nice utility spells out there.
Mom Bomb has reached the explode phase. Palom is bluffing up to get a big quake going.
Okay. For those who don't know, bluff gives Palom an extra 16 wisdom every single time he bluffs up. And you can actually go beyond the actual max of 99.
And as my esteemed commentator noted, Beauty was aware there was a very low magic power to hit him and that the explode wasn't much to worry about. And this should actually pull Beauty through this fight.
And here comes a nice big old quack here.
Now, Tybalt, what do you think about saving time by not going back to the save point?
Kane almost has enough HP to sit there and take the dark waves. I'd still save though, with it being Mon Bomb. I don't want to have to go through that again.
Well, Beauty's a braver man than I. Here he goes. And just fine. Beauty again knows his boss spots and is going to be just fine. I think it may only be fight, but he's going to get it. And actually, he may get a shot to get somebody lifed up, and it'd probably either be Rosa or Palom if he gets the shot. But Beauty is through the hook route at 36 minutes for what was an unpleasant hook route. That is very impressive.
Yeah, as long as you're able to get at least one, like two, because it was a near max roll of 365. So.
Well, and I think you're about to see a big improvement on Inven's side. Just the levels he's gotten puts him past a couple thresholds to where the fight isn't as nasty. That being said, Mom Bomb insists on picking on Rosa, which is not what I think he wanted.
No, because the other thing else I have to worry about is that every level you gain, and it gets faster, that Mom Bomb just keeps catching up with you.
Well, hopefully after this hook route, there won't be any more pitfalls on this seed.
I see what you did there. I see exactly what you did there, and I am here for it.
Well, there's a lovely turtle on top of tower, which is a fun fight. Say, while we are in a little bit of a walking thing, why don't we tell everybody what to do if you're seeing Free Enterprise and you're liking what you see and you're kind of interested in asking yourself, how could I get to play this fantastic game?
So we do have our Discord here. You can join us. We have our tournaments that go on. We have our big old Zemus zone, which is going on right now. We have an off-season tournament, which is kind of like a bit more fun. And then in between tournaments, we have a bunch of different clubs that happen. So, I mean, we've got one that's been occurring for the past couple of years called Pink Puff League. So it's geared towards newer runners. It has limitations, like if you've gotten too high in a tournament, you're locked out from joining it, so you're not in with, higher tier runners like Inven here. You're kind of just in people like new to the game. So it kind of makes it a nice, easy way to kind of learn the game there in Pink Puff. We have some other fun ones that go on throughout the season as well.
That we do, and we'd encourage you. We all love seeing you out there. We especially love meeting new players and love walking you along and helping you enjoy the game the way that we enjoy it. Anyway, Beauty has made his way underground and has decided to prioritize going to the Fey March to peek at the freebie and see the bosses that are required tonight. Meanwhile, Inven has reached the second phase of the fight, and by the casting emote on Palom, I suspect the Quake is imminent.
Yeah.
Beauty finds the pan.
Ooh, okay. Hear me out here, okay? We have the pan. Let's go Bong Yang, get a key item, go to the bull, get 2 more, and then we're gonna be at 1 HP and go straight over to the harp.
Well, if I can, maybe that will not be necessary. It's very possible that if we were to go use our pan, and Yong were to say, hand us the darkness crystal, and then maybe we saw, say, a tower key and a pink tail, we could theoretically be in go mode.
That is very true. Let's see, that's what, 3 more? Let's count the items. So we got 3.
We have a French vanilla
5.
Ashura and an antlion in the queen spot down in the Fey March. So those are not the worst bosses you can see down here. I don't think that they're things that our runners would be willing to try and take just now.
Antlion's very doable. As long as you have Blink on Rosa and you have enough, enough ethers or way to cast enough quakes there. You're not taking the counter hits. The Jura, yeah, it's a little bit more of a nuisance. Yeah, possibly have 3 key items here, possibly the 4. We're almost up to 10 key items, which is going to make getting the rest of our levels for the end game that much faster.
All right, and for those of you in chat who mentioned time for free enterprise, I will tell you that when club season, I know 2 clubs that are going to be designing seeds that are going to be running in the sub 1 hour or to about 1 hour long frame. There's definitely opportunities if you want to learn and come hang out. I'd encourage you to keep your eyes open and see what happens. Anyway, we have Inven through the hook route and making his way to the pitfall, roughly about 4 minutes behind Beauty, and Beauty top of De Jong, though I did not see what the item was.
I'm gonna check that here real quick for you. It looks like it was just a light sword.
Okay.
So yeah, it's sick for a Cecil if he ever shows up.
Cecil would be a lot more valuable for Inven than for Beauty, I believe.
Why is that? Oh,
because
yes.
Beauty did not complete the mirror room.
That's right.
All right, Beauty drinking out of the Dwarf Castle pot and going to head and do the Dwarf Castle check as well. I would be surprised if we see Beauty want to do Keyless Tower with that Kanatsu on top. It's not that it's an impossible fight, but it's not particularly fun or fast.
Yeah. Dwarf Castle here. This has been a big, contention amongst runners as, doing Dwarf Castle. It's 2 fights for 1 key item and a character.
Yeah, it's a lot more valuable when Warp Glitch is turned on, but unfortunately it has been disabled for this flag set, so you can't cheat your way into the back of Sealed Cave, and you have to go the long way if you wish to do that. But the first boss is Bahamut. That's actually fairly free here, and I think Beauty's probably just going to cast through it and take him down before the first Mega Nuke comes out. Meanwhile, Inven will be receiving his pan momentarily, and we'll see how he reacts to his bosses here.
I think you're doing exactly what Beauty's saying here. We're not going to waste some Stargulls on here. We're just going to Zerk up, cast a Quake, maybe 2, and it'll be through this fight. This bot does not have that much HP.
But I mean, I'm starting to look at it and think about this party. Other than the fact that you're forced to have Edward, it's not a bad team to be running with here. If a Darkness Crystal shows up, I could very well see one or both of our runners start moving toward endgame grinds.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely in a hybrid team here, not swinging towards one way or the other. There's a major where you have Zerk Straps, which is everybody Zorked up, maybe except for like your healer. Then you have Reflect, which is all mages. You have a little bit of both, a bit of a hybrid here. So I mean,
Well, and the biggest, I mean, we've got the best white mage in Rosa. Ooh, and we have a blue. Be short, or is it going to be a time fight?
Ooh, yeah, this is one of those spots where you see a blue robe and you're not 100% sure. We're gonna have to wait and see if there's a little bit of lag, and there wasn't.
It is the Water Hag.
So completely free here.
Well,
And
other than a little bit of time and having to listen to the old speech.
for our Edward, who's in the party.
Well, I hope that he can believe in himself and remain strong.
Yep. Believe in the me that believes in you.
Anyway, with that going on, inven is going to go ahead and do the bonk right now. I am curious to see if he decides to diverge from Beauty and just head up to check the pan checks right now. You know, the other thing, we keep harping on the key items. It's very possible that Sheila hands us a game-breaking item, say an Avenger, that suddenly changes the trajectory of things.
Mm-hmm. Any of those high tier items, you know, Avenger would be really nice defense sword, white spear, dragoon lance, like just huge items that can really change this party.
Yeah, and just increase the damage of what they can do. Of course, I think what we have here is pretty well set up to go and do a Mac Giant grind should the occasion arise, and I think we've got the gear appropriate for it. But
Mm-hmm.
again, it's the name of the game is how fast can you get through the checks and find what you need.
Yeah. And what is today's fashion here at Dwarf? It is a sand ruby.
I'm not sure if there's a whole lot of things that change where you're sitting right now. I mean, Edge is kind of nice, but does he really do a lot more than what the party can already handle without him? I don't think we've seen either player pick up a big ninja sword either.
I see a full moon, I think, for right now for
And I've
that.
seen a ninja shirt, but honestly, just getting high agility, you got to have something for every time.
Mm-hmm. But he can wear the same weapons that Yang can wear, except there's a little bit more with the swords.
Yeah.
And also the ability to dart, so that light sword comes a nice dart.
Yep.
So,
Well, we get our prize from Sheila, and Sheila will hand us the Luca key for the sealed cave and the spoon. So speaking of nice darts, though I think with Edward and party, that's where that's going.
Scar, I thought you were supposed to randomize this. Why did you leave a vanilla spoon?
we have one scoop of vanilla.
Well, all right, Beauty making his way back up. I suspect the turn in is going to be not too far behind, but I think you'll see Scar jumps, excuse me, not Scar, you'll see Invents jump slightly in front for fading that dwarf castle. The Sand Ruby is nice for getting toward 10 key items, but otherwise doesn't carry a whole heck of a lot of value.
No. And it's other thing, it's like, so like for Inven, you know, do you check to see if it's a paladin set? Do you see if it's a Cecil there? You know?
Well, I do
Have
see a
them
heads
spend
up.
the time.
I do see a heads up play on Beauty's side. Beauty knows that he will not need to go Evelyn drops the hovercraft off to be waiting for him by the cave while he's making his way up to Fabul.
Yeah, Inven did that as well as just dropping it off there to be able to turn that rat tail in.
I was too busy looking at the dwarf castle fight to see that. Meanwhile, we have Inven making his way toward the Chocobo Forest and Cave Magnus.
Yep. And only 1 HP on your metallic user, so instant wipe at the beginning of the fight.
Yep.
Fastest way to get through it.
Well, very nice setup, and it's going to be very good for him. I think you're going to see not too far behind him. So again, we've got a pretty exciting race going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, the really only difference is Dwarf Castle and Ordeals at this point, which are always two big discussion points in races.
Right.
This one
Well,
fade.
and Harp usually falls in that category too, because again, it's a walk with a long cutscene at the end of it. It takes a while to get through the check and get everything done, but you know you're looking to see where there's value.
And we've had this Harp for a while, and it's one of those things that the longer key item sits in your inventory, it just starts to sit there and be like, is this value here or is it not?
All right, folks. Well, for those of you who know your Final Fantasy IV, you'll know that at this point, Edward is going to save the party with music, and of course, for Enterprise, we'll do the same thing. It's appropriate because he's our hero, but we actually randomized the song in here. So I encourage all of you to take a stop and listen and see what kind of music is going to come from our wonderful DJ, Spoony B.
Oh, this is when we talk, right?
All right, and we have 2 versions of music to be played through and a little extended time because Pale Dim decided he wanted to hear it for a bit longer.
Yeah, good old doot doot doot. But we find an Excalibur there at the pink tail on inven side from this pink tail.
Right. Well, of course, for those of you that may have just been listening, the pink tail was yielded from the Harp check, and that gave it a scal, which is probably valuable to both runners if they can turn up at least an edge, and better, also good for Inven if he sees a Cecil. Inven decides to make up the Dwarf Castle check, so we may be about to see them pull even again, but I think Darkness Crystal at this point either has to be behind one of the 2 required Famars bosses or else down at the bottom of Sealed Cave.
Yeah. And as it goes for like the Demist hunt, we know where Demist is. It's sitting there at Baron Castle 1. So it's a matter of finding the Baron key for that.
Yeah, there has been no desire to go hunting for him.
No, I think Inven here, the reason why he's doing Dwarf, you just got an Excal, this is a key item, plus a character might be able to spike that Cecil here since he did do Ordeals.
Well, or Edge, frankly. It makes it's make reflex strats a whole lot better if you can have Edge chuck a quad 9 Excal followed up with a quad 9 spoon.
Mm-hmm. What do you do? I mean, we also had like the moon out there. We've got we get a bunch of different character checks, but some of those you really don't want to do.
Well, we're at a point. We are now getting to where I think we are 2 key items away from being in go mode. And I take that back. We are 1 key item away from go mode. If we have Darkness Crystal, we're go.
Yeah, and Beauty here looking to see if resetting out of that.
Nope, there's a twin in the bed, and I suspect it's Porum.
I always forget which direction the hair goes.
Yeah, honestly, though, that's not what Beauty's looking for. I think Edge is the big prize you're after.
Nobody has any faith for the guy anymore? Everybody's edge this, edge that.
I had forgotten there is still that awful keyless tower with Kainatsu at the top of it, and that's where Beauty's headed.
Yeah, I mean, Kainatsu's fine. I mean, in some spots it can be worse, but at the top of the tower, not too bad.
I think the party's got enough levels now that it's going to be all right. But if taking this a little bit too early can make this miserable, because Kainatsu will roll waves based on his remaining hit points, and there's enough power here that if you're down with an early magma key, it's not going to be a good time.
The answer question chat, Nerdhead, no. Beauty actually reset out of the changing room there on Ordeals, so it's been one of the bigger differences that inven actually has the Paladin Cecil. Beauty does not. Beauty just has the Dark Knight Cecil.
Well, and the Holy Swords, because of the treasure settings in this tournament, the Holy Swords are few and far between. So when you get one, it's kind of almost a need to go make effective use of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Beauty's going to be up there to fight the giant war turtle. And meanwhile, Inven's exiting Dwarf Castle. Do you think a Luca check is in his future?
It's not an objective. You can spend about a minute walking down. I think it's what, minute and a half to walk down there.
Yeah, about a minute and a half, and you get to see the item, and you don't even have to check the boss because we know D-Mist won't be there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely, if you're feeling behind, you know, I think Inven may be feeling a little bit behind.
Yeah, because the struggle's on the hook.
Yeah. Thinking, oh, maybe my opponent got down here sooner. I need to, you know, do something that's generally taken near the end to try to make up some of that time.
All right, well, we'll see how Beauty handles his first. The first Thor Rage was queued up well and should keep him out of too much wave trouble. A lot of times with Keinatsu, if you can get past the first couple rounds of the fight without getting waved, you put yourself in much better shape to win it later.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've got the Spoon, we've got Quake, we got enough damage to make those waves just end up tickling.
Honestly, if you can get it to the point, I think this first round of damage will get it to where Edward can survive a full wave, and at that point it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's how. And it doing Juke, no, that's fine. That's just good old Spoon things.
I will put one other interesting point up here. Both of our runners are at 8 key items. There's a very good chance we're going to be hovering right around 9 when someone finds a Darkness Crystal, which is always a interesting choice about trying to get the bonus for when you do your grind.
Here's the other thing to think about. Darkness may not be required.
That's very true too. If one of these checks turns up the tower key, then you may not even have to get the Darkness Crystal. But I think you keep doing it just because I don't think that there's even doing doors is not going to be a faster way to get you there, and there's not going to be too many checks left that could yield it unless we get a really long and obnoxious chain. Well, we're going to see 2 key items around the same time. Darkness Crystal in its vanilla location. Inven guesses correctly.
2 scoops. 2 scoops. I mean, I did say to randomize it, not make it not vanilla. So.
And Beauty is handed the Earth Crystal instead. Same kind of thing we're looking for, but it's not the color we want. Dark Imps in this spot are going to hit a little bit hard.
Yeah.
Not too bad. There are worse things that could be here, but it's not bad at all. Well, of course, no. Rosa doesn't have a protect ring, but I think Inven should be able to handle this fight without much. Meanwhile, Beauty has an interesting rabbit hole he may be going down here, especially if he is averse to running Sealed Cave, which we know is where Go Mode is.
Yeah. No, the magic here at this spot is what hits really hard. So you don't want to see like a Ruby, or that's where this spot comes in, that it has really high magic.
Yep.
Because developers wanted to make sure that Crush always hit.
Plumeria, to answer a question for chat, I have not seen a Assassin Dagger pull up for everybody. I do think both of them eventually pulled up Medusa arrows at one point, but I don't know if they held on to them.
That's actually, going for some toads.
Toad is a wonderful strat if it gets to land on them, rather. Beauty is going to actually go try his luck with the Feymarch bosses and do his required objectives, which I didn't see if he caught the rune axe that was in Cave Emblem that I know Inven picked up.
It does have a mute knife, though, I think.
Well, mute knife is Kane's best weapon.
Oh, and the toad gets off, so now this Steel Cave is completely free.
Yep, should be no problem for Inven, and in fact could be a chance to farm a little bit of experience and maybe start setting up for the grind. I don't think either of our owners is going to be set up to easily slingshot somebody, just because some of the fights have been desperate affairs where you've had to fight for every scrap of experience on each character.
Yeah, so it is going to be hard to kind of get that 5 level difference on the person you want to give the most, which would be Paladin at this point.
Well, so I'm very curious to see which boss Beauty goes after first down here. As noted, chat, the Ashura here is not an end of the boss, but it takes a lot of time to get through.
I think the first one would probably be Antlion. Oh, nope, that's a mute knife equipped. That's probably Ashura.
Yep, I think we're headed for Ashura first, and that Antlion is... both of these bosses are fast. The antline will be faster.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you don't want to sit there and actually use the fight command. So like spoon word, you're really not going to be using the spoon too much because you don't want to take those counter hits with the HP totals we have.
Well, if you get the blinks up, the sure fight is doable, if a bit long. In the meantime, I'm curious if we're just going to see if inven go grind with his 9 key items. Actually, no, I have miscounted. Inven has 10 key items. I think we're about to see the whale get raised.
Ooh. Here comes the question: do you check the character on the moon first?
I think you do, because if it's somebody that's worth taking that you can slingshot, and particularly because you have that X-Cal, I think it's really valuable for Inven if he goes up there and he finds Rydia or if he finds Cecil.
Yeah.
And in fact, I can see a good argument for taking Edge also. And none of those have appeared yet, so those are all good odd things. But I think Beauty's going to really need to have some of these checks pay out because I think he's going to spend a lot more time than Inven, and the fact that the Darkness Crystals in Inven's hand is putting him in a pretty tight spot.
Yeah, like we're going to have like both pieces of Forge here at the Feymarch for...
To explain a question for chat, one of the ways that Free Enterprise works is if a character is at least 5 levels above below what the middle level of the party is, they receive double experience for each fight. So if you find Rydia, who's a black mage and has access to nuke, she will get double experience during a big grind. And on something like this Mac Giant grind, it means that in 4 Mac Giants with life potions, she can be taken from level 1 to being able to cast nuke, which means that in about 5-6 minutes of grinding time, you have a end level mage sitting there and ready to go.
Yeah. Considering, just to give you an idea, she needs about 30 Mac Giants with no bonuses to be able to get up to nuke.
I believe it's 33, but yes.
Yeah, 33, 30. But it's a lot. And because you need so much, because again, game developers wanted to use her summons over casting nuke. So, because that's her main thing is she's a college, so she can summon everything.
And of course, in the interesting things, Palom was given nuke despite the fact no one ever expected that he would be ground up to the point where he could use it, seeing as he departs the party so early.
So yeah, it's one of those things like, even if you find, I don't know if taking a Porum, you do white nuke, double white nuke.
It's useful. The white spells are really neat for casting and they do a lot of damage, but they have a much longer casting time versus nuke, which is an instant cast and goes quickly, which makes them a little bit more valuable. That being said, I think you'd get a lot more use out of somebody in the Z fight than you're going to probably get out of Kane, which pains me to say. I mean, Kane and Yong are both good people to take into that Z fight for purposes of throwing potions and whatnot, but if you're doing a full reflect fight, they mostly sit and just make sure the mages don't die between the big bangs.
Yeah, and Yong does have that higher HP pool.
Yep. Well, Beauty seems to have the Ashura fight in stable thing. It's just that there's about 37,000 hit points for him to chew through, and it's going to be a little while. Meanwhile, we see Inven. Inven is interested in characters and is going to go see who is behind the sand root. And in fact, if that's Porum, he might be interested. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Nope, he is not.
So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. Going straight to the moon.
Yep.
Check that character.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is power.
Yes, it is.
So I mean, let's see. So we're gonna have almost an objective here. I mean, Beauty's still in this Azura fight. It's taken a while, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Beauty. Yep, there it is, and it's finished there, and it's time consuming. And I'm suspecting Inven will have a much faster time if he's doing it post levels. We are not going to see the lunar subterrane today, are we?
I don't think so. I don't think so. We have the pass. We have, what we need, and a white spear. So, a great weapon for Kane. Guess what? Kane can participate in the reflect strats too. Because you can use it as an item and cast white.
Well, Inven is paid out with an edge, and with that X-Cal and the spoon in inventory, I think he's going to be taken. And sadly, I think Best Boy may be kicked out of the part. No, he did not want edge.
Wow, that...
All right, well, Inven has a different plan than what I would, but that's why he's the runner, and I'm watching. Of course, the other silly question, yeah, inven is going down to set up his grind now.
Yep. I mean, you're going to do that either out in front of Mysidia or out in front of Baron. What we're actually doing here is we're setting up, every time you load up this game, it sets a seed for your encounter string of what you're going to find. In previous tournament, we actually had a flag called E Can't Run, which means any normal encounter that you take, you can't run away from it. Since one of the most common grinds was a D machine, you can set it up to, manipulate where it is based on an old speedrun chart. However, some very well-informed people here at Free Enterprise decided to culminate together and find out, encounters here at Baron to where you can make it to where the next encounter that you fight will end up being either the Mac Giant or the D Machine. So Inven's going to be walking back and forth here, counting the amount of steps he has, looking at the encounter he has, looking at the table and going, okay, I need X amount of fights here before I go to the Giant. You walk into the Giant, your encounter's on at the heart, and that fight that comes up is going to be your Mac Giant.
And now, of course, the other way to manipulate is to get the D Machine fight, but the D Machine fight works off of having the weak spell, and with Tell and Fusoya being given this tournament off, you really can't do it effectively until you really don't need to do it anymore. But that's why the Mac Giant fight has been so popular in this flag set. It's rather interesting because I think a lot of runners ignored it in favor of other grinds, and when it suddenly becomes the best option, it's in fashion and you see everyone doing it. Inven not having great luck finding the fight he's looking for.
Yeah. Sometimes some of these Mac Giant encounters, you can end up finding like a 5 or 6 the amount of encounters you have to take before the next one's going to be the actual Mac Giant.
So while we're waiting for this to be set up here, what do you look for heroes or for weapons for different characters when you're planning a Mac Giant grind there, Tybalt?
Well, so you want to hit one of the weaknesses of the Giant. So you want to hit either the Giant weakness or the Machine weakness. So, I mean, we're talking Ogre Axe, we're talking Poison Axe, Charm Claws, Charm Arrows. You've also got some hammers. Those Sid's hammers work very nice. Fire Spells is actually pretty good too.
Well, and it never hurts to have something like a little chip damage or something like a virus cast as well.
Yeah.
Mazamune, which makes that edge a lot more viable potentially for Beauty, but unfortunately does not solve the lack of Darkness Crystal. Of course, Beauty now at 5 out of 6 goals done, and all he needs is Darkness, and he's on his way. But I think Beauty's in quite a bit of danger if he doesn't get himself to Luca Cave, even if the Zod is holding something for him like the tower key. There's a big problem of how he's going to get his grind done. And the other big grind you've seen in this flag set that I've seen as a secondary, it's far and away behind Mac Giants, is doing doors in Sealed Cave, which is possible, but you really want something to speed Rose up to do that, and I don't think Beauty has it. But for his great fortune, I think he's headed that way right now, which puts him in a fun spot too.
Yeah. Then you also have another very, very situational grind where there are 3 tiles out in cave value that will spawn a behemoth. Now, if you have fast anchor and you have something that can do a lot of damage, like, hey, we've got Eddie with a spoon. We got 10 key atoms. That's about 150,000 experience per fight. So you're about 300,000 experience there with those behemoths.
Actually, to answer a question from chat, if you have the correct Harp in that fight on Edward, he can 6,000 to 7,000 damage on Mac Giant, and I don't think we're going to get that in the seed, seeing as both halves of Forge have been conspicuously absent. But it's really fun to watch a Murder Bard in action, especially when it doesn't have to be tied to the spoon.
Yeah, and that is the Loki Harp. Loki's loot that is strong against everything.
Yep, and Loki Harp actually also fixes some of Edward's high agility issues by putting a 5 penalty on his agility and a couple of other stats.
I thought the Apollo Monkey gave agility. It's only the Requiem Harp that reduces.
My apologies. You're right. It's the Requiem Harp. But almost all of Eddie's forges are useful and fun. Not to criticize other popular heroes who only get 1 forge item and shall remain nameless, even though they can summon monsters.
But we saw what he's been doing here. He's summoning the Mac Giant with the gold Thor Rage, something that does chip damage, so we don't do too much to the Searcher because we need to stay alive for quite a bit of time here.
reset on Beauty's part, and I think that's because we were not properly set up, and we're going to burn our cabin now because we know we won't need another one. Meanwhile, we'll see.
We keep
Go
doing
ahead.
this.
Yeah, we do. Tybalt, rather. Tybalt, you got a lot to say. Why don't you talk some?
I got upgraded to inven. Cool. No, I mean, the way the inven set this fight here is that he casts slow at least once or twice here on the Mag Giant. Something that's nice to know, and it's a high level knowledge gameplay, is that the Mag Giants are always summoned in the exact same spot. So if you end up casting slow on the Mag Giant, the next one that gets summoned up is going to have the slow as well, because it's based on the spot that the spell was cast on. So you don't have to worry about recasting it every single time.
Well, BeautyInDiscovery about to do his fight to make his way out against the Dark Imps, and the Mac Giant grind underway for inven. So I guess here's our race that we're looking at. Both runners have the pass, both runners have 10 key items, and it's really just going to be a question of can Beauty get his Mac Giant done and make up the time to inven while inven is down completing the 2 summoned monster spots.
Well, here comes actually another question here, is we're kind of in, a decent HP range. There is a chance we could do another fun Z-Fight strategy, 1200 straps.
That's true. And the question is, can you get through the Z-Fight faster by doing that than you would by grinding?
Mm-hmm.
And that could potentially be open to Beauty. We'll see what he chooses to do. Obviously, with the full Mac Giant grind going on, I think you're going to see inven push all the way up to get Nuke on Palom.
Yep. Not going to have slingshot, so it's going to take a little bit here.
Yeah, it's going to, if you're counting at home, it should be 8 Mac Giants if they all like glitch. Actually, with the experience the 2 runners have gotten, it might just be 7. I don't know how exactly inven's tracking his experience, but he may not need to do the full count.
Now, inven's created a nice little chart that it gives you how many you need to do with no bonuses at all. Nice little spreadsheet for it.
And the fact that inven's name is on that chart kind of implies he's going to be knowledgeable about it and use it.
Yeah.
Again, we are very happy to see inven back participating in this tournament after a couple years away. It's really exciting for me because by the time I became a runner in Free Enterprise, he had taken some time off. But since we have a little bit of time here, I'd like to remind everybody, these runners do play more than just Free Enterprise. I would encourage you to check out both of their Twitch channels. Inven, of course, on twitch.tv/inven. And Beauty's primary account that he races under for Free Enterprise is actually called The Queen is Lost. Highly recommend that. I'd also recommend you take a look at the 4 folks here involved in our restream team. They all put on fantastic shows. And I think our usernames here, Tybalt, Tall Grant, The Bardic Panda, and Scarcerer.
Yeah, it's actually Tool 2010 there on Twitch, but I haven't been streaming very much lately.
Well, you should be. I like it when you do.
Look, I make poor life choices, and I speedrun another Final Fantasy game. Okay.
That's fine. I mean, I've been dabbling into 4-Job Fiesta myself, but we know that Free Enterprise is where our heart lays. Anyway, Beauty racing the whale. I'm curious if he's going to go check the character and how inclined he may or may not be to take that edge, especially because he's got that Mazamune in hand from the Ashura spot.
Mm-hmm.
That may factor in a different choice, especially that, and the Excal on the spoon might be enough, and a slinged edge will function pretty well in the Z fight.
Very much so. And I was like, and here's the other thing: is that inven still has to go and at least do the Mura altar, and then has to go down and do the Fey March. So yes, make up a little bit of time, but having to make that redive back down into the underground, it's still close.
Well, you can see that inven is just about to wrap up his grind. There was a stop cast on the Searcher. That's usually a sign that you're going to clear the fight out. And that Thunderclaw doing massive work on the Searcher, which, while not a giant and not getting as much damage from, say, Kane's Ogre Axe, took quite a bit from that Thunderclaw of Yong. And we see just over 1 million experience. That's the full 8x8 that inven did. Didn't want us to consult a charge or anything, just went to it. And Beauty stepping to find the grind. I would say inven's grind there lasted just about 8 to 9 minutes, if I counted it correctly.
About average for a growing time. So now it's a matter of which do you do first. I think you end up going back to the moon, taking out the Mura altar, then going back down doing your Fey March.
Yeah, just to minimize the amount of time you have to get in and out of the whale. It's a neat way of going, and I don't think that's where he's planning to go. He might be going out to get into the ship.
Nope.
Nope, he's going to the moon, and you'll see him take the Falcon back underground later.
And then he may get, he's not going to get hit by the Troyan parking authority.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's going to park the Falcon over there. Troya for the pass.
I would say, though, I think Inven has got a slight lead because while it took Beauty, I think, about 8 or 9 minutes to get through the bosses, it's going to be significantly faster at the levels for Inven.
Yeah, I mean, but, Beauty may not have to do as much of a Mac Giant grind because he does have more levels going into it.
He does, and, well, there's also the matter of the Z fight. After a number of tournaments where the power was high enough that Z would be a fairly simple affair, it has become a lot scarier in this flag set. And particularly with that Edward hero and the slow mages, as you mentioned before, this could be a little bit tricky. But both our runners are excellent. I think they're going to take care of business, but we shall see what happens here. Meanwhile, Inven to go check out the last boss we're probably going to see in this seed. I think both runners are following a fairly similar path through the seed, and we won't see any more checks than what we have because there's one efficient way to go.
Mm-hmm. Here comes the question. It's going to feel real bad. We haven't seen Golbez or the Alt Gauntlet yet.
Well,
if we see the Alt Gauntlet here at Burr, you're going to be like, I just did a full grind. What's more levels?
Some of the moon grinds are not, all gauntlets are not particularly fun. Besides, we could see something really simple like King Queen Evelyn up here.
True. Or Kaipo Guard. There's still a bunch of bosses out there.
That's, well,
free.
Nice and free. I think these guys will be turned into stone like Palom and Porum. Meanwhile, unfortunately for Beauty, he has hit the wrong fight. This is not the searcher he's looking for, and I think Beauty's going to be doing a little random encounter just to see if he can hit the grind.
And maybe just cut it off one, hopefully,
Well, the Mac Giant chart is a little bit trickier than a lot of the other grinds. It does take some work to find and read it.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the stone has landed, and Inven is through the guard fight.
And we'll see what we get rewarded here, even though we're not gonna follow that at all.
Yep. Heroine robe comes a little bit late. I don't think you take it off. Use it to put power on. Well, maybe you might. For the Inven still has 2 fights to do in the Fey March, and a little extra protection on Rosa, particularly in that Ashura fight, might not be the world's worst thing.
No, not at all. And you could actually, do some aiming with Rosa and get some extra damage out there with that Elven bow.
Yep. Beauty finds a single Mac Giant, but unfortunately he's not in the market for Mac Giant dating these days.
There we go. We found it.
All right, and Beauty is into the grind fight.
All right, 16-16.
All right,
yep.
So we'll see how many of these Beauty has to do, and in the meantime, his way to the Fey March to get his last 2 bosses, and then I think we'll see the pass turned in and our look at the Z Sprite for today.
Yeah, so instead of in vanilla where you got the pass for like 100,000 gold to go to a secret little area there in Troya, we do something a little different with it. We actually give you a direct path directly to Zemus.
Right.
So it's not a little shortcut.
So I think, within the next 7 or 8 minutes, we're going to see Inven go boss of the game, which under an hour 30 is usually a pretty solid time in a seed like this, especially for one where the hook route was so unpleasant. But again, Inven has a couple of checks he has to work through first. We'll see what he can do. Inven casting float, trying to be a little protective. He doesn't want to stop and heal, so he is going to try and avoid the damage as he makes his way down.
Yeah, being on the last floor, your float wears off whenever you transition floors, so does it right there on the last floor, heals up and goes, okay, let me just go.
Beauty's Cane hitting for 3,000 damage is nice, and again, you're seeing some kind of conservative play in this fight just to make sure that everybody stays alive. And Yang also hitting for 3,000. It looks like one cycle through may be enough to kill the Mac Giant. That last Mac Giant should be pretty close to dead. All right, Antlion first for Inven.
Yeah, and this is going to be a pretty... oof.
Edward's fine. He'll get experience regardless anyway. 1,500 hit points on Edward means that he has a good shot at getting through that first big bang without hiding even. But you can see the big white and Newtcaster getting queued up to make this antlion fight a lot faster. And frankly, it's probably nice to have Edward getting hit because he's not going to be one of the better characters for this fight. Everybody else has a way to hit antlion without invoking the counter.
Mm-hmm. And granted, that our HP totals, 300 to 400 HP on a counter is not terrible. But when the boss is hitting you for 1,500, you kind of feel bad.
I think that this power may take this antlion out, and there it goes. Beauty on his third Mac Giant.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, we got one more boss here for inven, and then
and then on our way,
Beauty as well.
Yep. One boss for Beauty as well, but Beauty has to finish the Mac Giants up first, and Beauty has a little bit more of a walk through subterranean to get there.
Doing some inventory management here. Oh, Grunax.
All right. Here we go for the Ashura fight. This is a little bit higher hit point, but depending on how Inven plays it, you may have to do something a little bit more creative, and you can see the Star Veil being put on Yong. Inven's going to be casting Wall on Ashura to prevent healing during the fight, and then bouncing damage spells off Yong in true Wyvern style.
Because it won't trigger a counter. Now, doing double Star Veil. So, doing this double Star Veil here, you reflect your Star Veil onto Ashura, and therefore all of her spells that she casts on herself get reflected back. She's just not heal herself at all.
And a beautiful quad 9 from Palom, who has 2,200 health. Pretty swole over there.
Yeah, that Palom's got some muscles there. Big brain, too.
Well, Kane with his Rune Axe threw another 8k on there. That's not too shabby either.
No, it is not. And, making quick work of this Ashura here.
All right, Beauty continues to work, and I think we're one hit away from... And, of course, Palom is also one hit from going down, apparently.
Look, it's fine. He's got Nuke. He doesn't need any more experience.
2,200 hit points is a pretty beefy Palom. That's getting into upper level range. So that should award the crystal to Inven at about 120, and also a white spear for Kane, which is a fun toy.
Yeah. Which he already has one. So does he really need a second one?
All right, we'll see what kind of strategies that Inven has in mind for this minute or two.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Because, there's some interesting ways to take out Z, and here's the thing. We're talking like Zemus is going to be a cakewalk. No, Zemus is never a cakewalk. Races have been decided by Zemus for the beginning of time, so anything can still happen. Well,
I guess since we don't have a long walk down the lunar subterranean, I should start with the little speech here while Inven gets ready to take the super secret shortcut. In Free Enterprise, we do try to randomize as many things as we can. However, even though we randomize every other boss, we can't move in Zemus. Between the massive hit point pool, the bizarre refill, the long script, and all the other things he does, he just doesn't fit anywhere properly in the seed. So he has to remain our end boss, and that's the point where you'll see him every time you watch Free Enterprise. But we do find a way to make him random in every seed. We put a new costume on him and make him look differently. In fact, we have a pool of over 600 sprites drawn from all parts of pop culture, video games, and other places, and we never know which one it is until we walk into that final fight. So, as Inven is taking us through the secret shortcut to the bottom of the moon, the question we ask to all of our chatters putting up Z flags is, whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
That's the question was, does it have a hat? Or is it cute?
We can see how materialistic you are about what possessions you have. It'll be good, Tybalt. Anyway, so let's find out what kind of fun surprise is waiting for us in the Z fight here, and see if Inven can close out the run. Beauty, in the meantime, has finished his Mac Giant grind, is headed for the moon to go do his Murasame Alter, but I think Beauty needs some sort of catastrophic wipe from inven in order to catch him here at this point.
Yeah. But, I mean,
It wouldn't be the first time it happened, but it's
Nope.
it's what it is. We don't want to curse inven's run here.
No commentators curse. Not at all. Alright, well, here comes the crystal being thrown.
And Zemus will transform, decloak to where he can be hit, and then the real fight will begin. I saw a Berserk cast there, did I not?
Yes, you did.
Okay, we are looking at least probably hybrid strats here today.
And who was it? I'm so curious. I have some favorites out there. This is a new one to me, actually. I've never seen this one.
I don't think it's Astral Demus. And I hate to say it, I do not know what this is from.
Neither do I. This is one of the newer ones.
Yeah.
I think. Anybody in chat have an idea what this might be from?
Breath of Fire 4 is the word from chat. Of course, chat seems to know everything, which is always varying.
Yeah. You can always rely on chat.
I don't believe either of our runners saw Silkwebs during the seed, did they?
No, they did not.
Well, looks like it's so far a pretty clear thing. Rosa is able to survive the counter nuke and is putting everything else she needs to together to make sure that she survives that first big bang. Speaking of, here it is.
Yep. And the first, direct cast spell we ended up hitting on him caused counter nukes, so this is only do like half damage here, so everybody's going to be easily walking it off.
I think most of these characters are going to be able to survive a full-on nuke. Everyone that's not our Edward hero, but I think with the gear that Palm's been given, he should be strong enough to weather that storm, plus the levels he has.
There is a chance he just whiffs all of his dodges and still takes a full 2255 or something like that for a full-powered Big Bang?
Well, what's impressive to see about this fight for inven is his party is actually geared like you would see in a T-Wildish or T-Wild kind of seed. You've got endgame gear on Kane and Edward enough to do this fight. Yong, of course, doesn't need the gear because he just needs his levels, and then you've got endgame spells coming from the two casters. So this is actually looking like a very traditional style Z fight. Beauty has completed his time inside the lunar subterranean. Will be making his way to Zemus as he's into Crystal.
Yeah, and is warping out. Did he not have any more exit items?
He did not. I guess he must have burned them or forgot he had them. The only one I remember is, no, he used two of them. He bought two. One was used at the Harp check, and the other was used the first time he went to the Fey March. Or actually, he may have bought three because he went to the Fey March twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that bit him here. Full Big Bang hits the party. Everyone but Edward is able to get through it. And I think we should have been pretty close to the refill right there, so I'm not sure you're going to see any sort of debuff with the black hole being cast.
Yeah, because once we hit over that next threshold, it's just going to go straight into rocks. We have enough HP out there to take it on, but well, we can Young with survival rocks.
Well, this is the point of the fight where I think things get a little bit hairy, because this is going to be a full Big Bang coming that I don't think is going to get nerfed, and it's going to depend on how strongly Rosa can throw that party-wide Cure 4 and get everybody popped back up. I don't see Yong and Kane having a problem getting through, but some of the other characters you may want to survive are going to be riding it pretty close here.
Well, inven here looking for an item in his inventory.
I think he's hoping for a big healing item, and he just doesn't have it right now. So this is where it gets a little bit iffy if Rosa goes down. Nope, Rosa survives it. I think everyone gets through except for Edward again. And that's good news for inven because his melees are still up and able to do some damage.
Yep. Bring Edward back up. Not so much to try and do some extra damage, but more of put him back into the queue, trying to slow down this room, because that's one of the very few ways that we can actually slow down is sticking more people into that queue.
Well, Beauty looking around, and I think this is the hunt for Silkwebs.
Yeah. Silk ones are nice.
Well, again,
Yeah,
with
okay.
that Edward hero, this is a very scary Zeromus fight.
Well,
Of course, it is comical to watch the miniature person climb in the airship and then reach up at the counter at the store and ask if they have what he wants in stock.
so Maris mentioned a Berserk for a black hole isn't an ideal. Not, however, that after Big Bang there is out of the first two Big Bangs there is going to be a virus, or if you're further along in the script, you do have a nuke that comes out instead. So, knowing where you are in the particular fight, kind of allows you to kind of have that little bit of extra damage coming out from the Berserk.
All right. Inven is pretty well. There's rocks. Inven is very near the end. We have less than 12,000 hit points left on Zeromus, and with Yong at the health he is, I think that this is going to be good.
Yeah. Here comes one of the rocks out. Now,
Yong,
my question
Yong
is
is
he going to go for swag?
go for swag and try and throw a white. I think
Yeah,
before he can get the
I
white
think
cast
no.
off, Yong's going to finish things.
I'm thinking of a different swag, to be honest.
Oh, the old kamikaze kill that you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, the kamikaze.
Always fun to see when it happens, but I think we're less than 5,000 on Z, so it's 1 or 2 more hits to get him down. Well, Z is throwing rocks for everything he's worth.
Yeah. They keep coming. And Young's just like, yep, nope, I'm good.
All right, and I believe that is not it. No.
No.
Z is estimating. Wow, Yong had full hit points at the start of this Meteo phase, and he is down to 900.
Yeah.
And there's our crack boom. Here's your winner at 129.55 Inven.
Ooh, with that Bedeau right ear, welcome in, Inven, GG.
Hey, thank you.
So tell us about the run and the seed.
So I love doing low percent, as you'll see from my treasure count here in a minute. And this is one of those seeds where it totally bit me in the butt. I saw that VKC down the hook route. I'm like, okay, we just need to use 1 cure 2. We'll be fine. What could go wrong? Mom Bomb went wrong. Went terribly wrong. Had to spend way too much time there grinding up to prepare. And even once prepared, like 3 tries in a row, she's like, no, Rosa dead. Rosa dead. Rosa dead. Finally got through there, though, and then things felt like they picked up a bit. But that Mom Bomb, and also Zeromus was wonky, but Edward, Anchor, what are you going to do? It's going to happen. Big mistake there was not just letting him stay dead, so Heroine Rosa's Cure 4s would have done better work on the rest of the team.
Well, I got to go back to the beginning of the seed and ask you a question I was very curious about.
Yeah.
What prompted you to take the mirror room after you saw that there was not a key item there?
Well, for one thing, I've already come up the mountain anyway. 2, I am a big fan of Cecil on this flag set, and not just for the Mac Giant grind. I think cover strats are invaluable, and if things are really weird, he enables some other grinds too. I know I didn't have the X-Cal yet, but I would have clearly been overjoyed had he popped out after I turned in that pink tail.
Okay. Well, I guess the other fun question I had is there was an interesting convergence of routing between you and your opponent today, right up until the point that both of you went up to the overworld and took care of the Harp check. After that was done, what sent you down to go look in Dwarf Castle and Sealed Cave?
Dwarf Castle was specifically because of getting the X-Cal from the pink tail. I'm like, okay, if there's a Cecil here, for one thing, it enables me to do both those Fame Arch fights without having to do an endgame grind first. You can get through both of them pretty well with just cover strats and blink. And of course, we had power punch and jump as options that wouldn't draw antlion counters. And Asura, if she's putting all her hits on Cecil, just blink, 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 and you're happy. So just how much he would have enabled there is what sent me to Dwarf Castle. And then Sealed Cave after that was thinking, well, I just got Warp on Palom from Dwarf Castle. So if I do want to ditch him for someone else, like let's say we get an Earth Crystal or something, or a Sand Ruby, which I hadn't checked yet, I'm like, let me use Palom's Warp to get through this, and then we can maybe, if we want to, let go of him, because if Cecil had shown up, I would have probably ditched Palom for the sake of slingshotting Cecil and the Giant, because a level 65 Paladin with an X-Cal solves all your problems.
Yeah, he does do that.
But yeah, that was kind of the thoughts, and then when Darkness Crystal was there, I was like, oh, okay. So it kind of sent me on my way.
Yeah, and that was really fortunate. The reason I asked that question is you two diverged, and he went and checked the Kenatsu on top of tower at that same point.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, I am a big fan of Keyless Tower, but I had also... Oh, there was one more thought with all that. I had bought extra Star Veils earlier, and so my other thought was, if I get down Sealed Cave, and this is not Darkness Crystal, or it's not some other, like Baron... I would have done Baron, because we knew Demist was waiting there, so that's a triple check, and a character check. So I would have probably done Baron even. But I had the extra Star Veils, and I'm thinking, okay, if I am going to Zonk here, and I'm going to just go ahead, grin and bear it, and fight those annoying Feymarch fights with this team, I can take a few extra trapdoors and use Star Veils to grind them just to get my team a little more oomph before going back to Feymarch. So Sealed Cave did a lot of those things. And if it was no good item, just reset out. I know Demas isn't down there.
Well, it worked out really well for you. You came into the underground off the Falcon launch a little bit behind, and you certainly did an effective job making up the time. And I should point out, as we saw in the scroll there, 34 treasures is a low number and very, very impressive that you handled the siege so well with so little gear.
Yeah, I think that's probably a strategical mistake, but it's hard to, like, some people are like, I'm a loot goblin, I will never change my ways, and I'm, back in the day when Kata seeds were a little more common, it's like, well, you're getting only monster in a box loot the entire seed. What can you do with the minimals? So old habits die hard, but I do need to adjust that before we get too deep in the tournament.
Well, you've got that first victory under your belt, and that sets you up for a good thing. So hopefully the momentum keeps rolling for you in the future.
Hey, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. It's fun to be back in tournament play. Love the flag set. And thank y'all tonight for handling the restream and making sure we have a show.
I fear facing you in the future.
I mean, I can see that my opponent here is in the Z fight at this point on the restream. That's not that far apart. One simple, and beat me underground, like you said, beat me underground on the hook route. So I think this is a flag set that, except on the most direct of seeds, anyone can make a play that gives you the win. So.
Well, I think most of the people that are going to be in your group should rightly be afraid to face you in a future match.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to sell myself short or anything, but I do think that the flags, they open up the door to anyone to win on the majority of seats.
I can definitely agree with that.
Yep. Well, and that's one of the things that makes it great. Well, inven, it was a pleasure to watch you run tonight. Just fantastically done and a well-deserved. So, geez on that.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a good rest of your night.
Yeah, you too.
Your winner, inven, with a time of 1 hour, 29 minutes, and 55 seconds, coming in just under that 90-minute mark.
Yeah, that's relatively on average. Like I say, an average time on these flag sets. We try to have our flag sets geared around is that 90-minute time frame there. And the bedeviled my ear and snap, crackle, boom there on screen. We have Beauty in with us. GG and Beauty.
Thank you. Good evening, Tallgrant and Tybalt.
All right, tell us about how your run went, sir.
Oh man, if you couldn't tell, I was playing with nerves. I was getting so frustrated at my menuing because I was like, oh my god, I'm in a tournament, I'm playing inven, but overall I was pretty happy with it. A few kind of bummer wipes. I think the biggest disappointment I have in the seed was taking that wipe to Mom Bomb when I had the stack of illusions. And I had sat there at the save point right after, and I'm like, did I just do that? Oh my goodness. But otherwise, I was fairly happy with it. Being within 7 minutes of such a phenomenal runner's inven, I'm very happy with how I turned this out.
Well, tell us a little bit. I guess the place we'd like to start asking you about is what was going through your head when you went up Ordeals, got to that mirror room fight, and saw that the Mylon was there and not gating a key item.
So my initial thought is, I've already come this far. I can go ahead and turn a Cecil, and then if I see Cecil, he's viable rather than kind of an immediate toss as a DKC. So I figured I'd stick it out, and then when I, once again took another wipe, I figured, you know what, I'll cut my losses and run, which then had me sweating when the pink tail dropped the X-Cal. And I'm like, oh goodness, am I gonna have to run up Ordeals again? And thankfully, I kind of didn't get punished anymore on that one.
Yeah, we were wondering at all if you would be tempted to go check the lunar character before you did your grind, because with the X-Cal and the spoon and inventory, Edge could have been attractive, but I think post-grind he wasn't quite such a good option.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, with Rose Up to White, Helmet Nuke, I knew I was going in with hybrid strats. And frankly, once you get the levels on Yang, he's putting out plenty of damage, especially with the Cat Claw. So, even if I'd picked up a Cecil or an Edge, I really didn't feel like they would end up contributing any more than I'd get from the party. And I feel like I still had a pretty comfortable Z fight for these flags.
I think of anything else that.
I've got two more.
Go
Tell me
ahead.
about your decision making, particularly once you got the Harp check out of the way.
Oh goodness, I have to go back to when I was in the moment. So I think once I had Harp, I was pretty much done with the overworld. I think at that point, I felt I had the strength to get through the Fey March. And so even though I had Luca Key in hand, I figured, hey, let me just go do my objectives. You never know if you're going to pull Darkness from one of those. And there you go, you're in go mode. So I went down there for both of them. Didn't pay off in terms of the go mode, but thank goodness I didn't, fly over to Zot, which was one of those last two checks I had left. So I think, once again, popular saying do your objectives. So I said, hey, I've got it. I've got the illusions. I've got enough star veils to get heals bouncing off Asura, pick up a mute knife. Let's just go take down the Fey March.
Cool. And I guess my other thing is this puts you at 0-1. What do you set up a bounce back in week 2?
I'm sorry, cut out a little bit there. What was that?
Sure. What do you have in mind to help yourself bounce back and get to 1-1 in week 2?
I just continued to de-rust. I mean, I took a little bit of break from the game, kind of went and did my own thing, and was obviously a very late join in the tournament when Jay Brunter had to drop out. And so I hadn't really practiced too much. And so it's been a mad scramble this week, and I think I need to continue shake that rust off, get a little more comfortable with some of the lower stat fights. I think I got maybe a little too comfortable with T Wildish and things like that, where the gear is just always so plentiful and nice. And so coming into T Pro and with the reweighting, especially in relative to Monster in a Boxes, used to be pick up a Cecil, go take chest until you find your crystal sword and you're off to the races. And that kind of drops off a little bit now. So it really makes you think twice. And so I think that's the main thing for me is get that practice in, shake off some of that nerves. I didn't really expect to win against inven. Like I said, he's just such a good runner. I wanted to do my best. I wanted to be competitive, and hey, there's always that chance. And like I said earlier, very happy with my performance and how close I kept it.
Well, GG's. That was actually a fairly close race. It was very exciting to watch. Can't wait to see you play again in the future.
All right. Well, thank you so much. As always, thank you very much to the Restream team, yourself, Tall Grant, Tybalt for commentary, Bardic Panda for tracking, and Scar for restreaming. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you to inven, my opponent, for the wonderful race. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to week 2. Have a great night, everybody.
All right. Well, that was tonight's race of inven versus BeautyInDiscovery, with inven taking the lead. But that's not just all the free enterprise we have for you. We have more coming down the way. We have some more races going on tomorrow. Go ahead and pull up that list of matches.
Yes, but I think the big one is going to be tomorrow starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, where we will most likely be seeing Poydrak versus Firebird Lover. And then I think that there is a primetime race going to happen tomorrow night which I think will be rebroadcast. I don't think it's quite finalized yet, but there should be another race going on tomorrow night between Noob Tree and Frankie Bones, or between Falgren and Golden Shocker, or Vitasia and Nitsi. So encourage all of you to keep your eyes on Free Enterprise and Free Enterprise 2, and then watch all weekend. We should have a number of races as we get deeper into the ZZ6. Tybalt, it's been an absolute pleasure tonight. I think we're going to wish everybody well, since there's not any other Free Enterprise action tonight. We hopefully see all of you very soon.